Can you hear me?
Okay. One moment. Hold on.
Come on, Gary. What's that?
Jerry distracted me. It's all his fault.
So we.
I love that you guys are all together. I thought it was going to be like a whole bunch of Zoom
Now I
boxes.
can hear you. Okay.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm psyched. I didn't know you were all going to be together. I assumed I was going to be looking at like little Zoom boxes. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a cool store. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us in our little Baltimore.
My
comic
pleasure.
shop. We really appreciate you being here, and we are excited to talk to you about lots of things, including Deadpool and Wolverine, World War III.
Excellent. Well, fire away. I feel like there's a little bit of an echo, but I will let you guys kick it off. Tell me how you want me to go, or how you typically do this. You let me know.
So we will probably start by asking just some intro questions for folks who don't know you as well as Gary does, and then we'll chat a little bit more about the book and then some other projects you've worked on, and go from there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Joe, can you start by telling us a little bit more about yourself and sort of your journey into comics?
Sure. I have been writing comics officially since I think 1996. I got into the business because I was going to school at New York University at Tisch School for dramatic writing, for screenwriting specifically. I wanted to be a movie guy. And I worked in the department to pay my way through school. And when I was there, Marvel Comics. Oh, did I lose you guys?
No, we're still here.
Oh, okay.
I think Sam just made you giant.
That's fine. Yeah, your window disappeared, so I got scared. While I was working in the department, I was friendly with the assistant who ran the place. She was an older lady. She'd been there for a really long time, and we talked about how she learned how to read because of Superman comics. Like, she knew I like comics. And that was, she saw the pictures and wanted to know what the words were saying. And that's how she learned to read. So then one day she says, there's a letter sitting on our director's desk from Marvel Comics, and it's going to wind up in the garbage, but you might be interested. So I went and I stole the letter, basically. And it was young editors who were interested in starting a program to develop new talent in our department. So then I put the letter back and pretended I didn't know what it was and said, hey, director of our department, I love comics. I heard Marvel wrote out to you. And then I offered to run the program. So that was kind of how I got my foot in the door. And I always tell that to people, not so they'll commit mail fraud, but that when these opportunities pop up, you just have to kind of jump on them. So I ran this program with these editors, and we called it the Stan Hatton Project. And the first year we did it, I got hired. The second year we did it, Brian K. Vaughan got hired. He had a much bigger career than I did in all sorts of various places, but it was great, and I learned a lot. So I got in the door there. I did a whole bunch of Marvel stuff like What Ifs and 2099 books and things like that. Then I got a chance to work on Daredevil. I did that for about a year. I got fired so Kevin Smith could write Daredevil, and that was totally fine. And then I got offered Deadpool, and I got offered to pitch for Deadpool, and I pitched just kind of like a wacky, kooky book, and that sort of became the Deadpool that people know today. He was a little more serious before I got him, and I thought, I can't possibly write this grim, murderous guy for a long time, so I pitched a much goofier, bouncier version. And it worked because everybody else was going for the dark Merc stuff. And so I did that. I wrote the X-Men for a little while with Steven T. Siegel, who I wound up forming a company with called Man of Action. And then together with Duncan Rouleau and Joe Casey, we made this little company, and we wound up pitching Ben 10. We co-created Ben 10, Generator Rex. So we did animation for a long time. We did comics for a long time. I've worked at Marvel. I worked at DC. I had a run on Superman and JLA for a couple of years. Then a lot of animation, a lot of video games, and then some indie stuff. So I Kill Giants, is a book that I'm very proud of and won a bunch of awards, and it's had a nice long tail on it. They made that into a movie, which I got to write. And I think that's pretty much it. Now I'm back at Marvel, and it's kind of great. So that's the career in a nutshell. I hope that gives you an idea.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, that's a wide and very and amazingly diverse career. That's awesome. You're not too young to know what Ben 10 is, right?
I know what Ben
Okay.
Ben
cool.
10
Some of the people
watching. The Ben 10 he's talking about came out while I was watching
Yeah.
the show.
Got it.
Generator
All
X was my shit.
Got it.
I
All
was
right,
so
perfect.
sad when that got canceled.
Some of the people in this group are like just really tall fetuses, so we have to double check every once in a while that they were alive when these things came out.
All fetuses.
It's funny. I was gonna ask you how you did Ben 10 because I remember being like I think at your house, I think it was your old house when you had like pitched it with like the different. You're like, can we get away with I'm blanking on the one where it was like crystal. It was like crystal method or whatever, and stuff like that. It was like one of the forms. I remember you like talking about this, and then it sold and everything like that. But I don't think I ever put together. I should have at the time been like, wait, this isn't a comic, and so I don't think I ever realized put together. I was like, how did he get into that? So that's cool. I didn't realize that it was from like a company that you made. I knew.
Yeah, well, we were very lucky. The weird behind the scenes story of Ben 10. We we formed this little company with the idea that as writers we might get treated better in Hollywood because we all of us wanted to work in Hollywood to some degree or another. The other three guys live in LA, and comic book writers were not being treated particularly well if they migrated over there. And there were some not so great comic book projects back in the day that were turned into movies that kind of explain why. So we thought if we were a company, we might be treated better. That was completely not true, but it did get us a booth at San Diego Comic-Con. And so because we had this booth, we looked semi-professional, which was just, it's so preposterous looking back. It's really funny. And we had a buddy, I don't know if any of you remember Wizard Magazine, but Wizard Magazine used to be like your only source for news about the comics industry. And we had a buddy who worked there, and he had just sold a project to Adult Swim that at the time was called Sweet Jane, but you might know it as Robot Chicken. And he said, hey, the guys, at Cartoon Network want us to do a superhero show, but that's not what we do. We do our goofy, weird stop motion chaos. So we're just introducing them to comic people. So sure enough, we said, yeah, sure, we'll make a cartoon. And we had never done that, so we had no idea. And the guy came over, and he's a big cartoon producer. He's been involved in a lot of projects. Very kind of Hollywood guy. So we said, we will pitch you 20 ideas in 20 minutes. Because he couldn't figure out, well, there are 4 of you. I don't understand. Maybe there's a writing team usually, but not 4 people. And we're like, no, it's, we have 4 times the brain power. We'll give you a bunch of ideas. You pick the best one. So we said 20 ideas in 20 minutes, and we did not have 20 ideas. So then we had to go back and make up 20 ideas. And then we did literally pitch them 1-minute pitches. And if we went on too long, somebody rang a bell and we had to shut up. And if we were over in 5 seconds, because I'd be like, all right, it's like werewolves, but they fly fighter jets. And he would go, no, I hate werewolves. That would be the end of the pitch. We're just done. And in that group of pitches, we had Ben 10. We had what would become Generator Rex. We also did this cartoon called Zach Storm on Netflix. Originally it was called The Seven Seas, so that was in there too. So we had a bunch of things that ultimately wound up getting made, but that was Robot Chicken is the unofficial grandfather of Ben 10. And that's how we got into that crazy industry. And it's where as a group we probably made our sort of lion's share of built our career together in animation, and it's led to a bunch of really interesting work and led to some video games that we've also worked on. And so it's been a wild ride. But yeah, Ben 10 was the beginning of it all. Another not quite a lie, not quite a crime, but just being like, yeah, sure, we'll make that for you, and no experience at all. So you'll see a pattern in my career.
So so as you said, you're back at Marvel. So can you talk a little bit about how this book that we have here came to be? If that was a pitch from you or someone from Marvel reached out, how that story came to be?
Yeah, I've been really lucky. Everybody at Marvel is has been very good to me over the course of time. I mean, I did quit with Steve. We both quit the X-Men at one point because editorial was not so great. That was also because they were going bankrupt and everybody was operating out of fear, and it was a very frustrating time for everybody. But when once the dust settled on that, and we realized nobody was blacklisted and stuff like that, I continued to get calls, um, both for primarily for Deadpool, which mostly I would say no to because I had kind of a like a rule that I just didn't go back to things. It was just a weird affectation for a lot of my career where I was just like, I already did it. You know, I don't know if I want to tell more stories. And then people would reach out for like Spider-Man, and I got to do like Spider-Man Deadpool and stuff like that. So I was like, well, as long as Spider-Man's involved, that's cool. And I did some Spidey work. So one of the editors, Mark Basso, who's the editor of the book, he is, I guess, the Wolvie editor, and said, "Hey, I've got this thing. We only have a title. I don't know if you'd be interested, but it's Wolverine, it's Deadpool, it's called World War III, and Adam Kubert's going to draw it." And I worked with Adam on the X-Men, and I always liked him. I mean, he's a very sweet guy and super talented, and is like a definitive, if not the definitive, Wolverine artist, you know, for this century. And so it was kind of a no-brainer to say, yeah, let me give it a shot. And then I got kind of hung up on the title because I hated it. I was like, I don't like this WW3. And they're like, well, yeah, but there's like the three claws and Wade Wilson. And I was like, could it be Wade Wilson the third? That's what the WW3 really means. And they were like, what is that? And I go, I don't know. I'll figure it out. And that's how I got involved in the book. So once I got on board, I was super excited. I knew Adam was going to kill anything I drew and that I wrote, and it was an opportunity also to do something mature, which I really haven't gotten to do in comics. You know, most of my stuff is I would, you know, all ages, meaning it's comic code approved, which doesn't even really exist anymore. But for the period of time, for most of my career at least, that comics code was still in effect at Marvel and DC. So, you know, we always joked about like how dark things got. And it's like, we make comics for kids. Not so much. But this one I knew was going to be labeled mature, and we could just go to town. So it seemed like a fun project. And like I said, working with Adam is always a joy. So that was going to be great. And it was small. Like it was, you know, just the three chapters, that felt very manageable, especially like at the time I was pretty busy, and to do mainstream comics on a regular basis is a big commitment. So it was a perfect kind of, you know, smaller rollout. I also knew that the movie was coming up, so it was going to be like a tie-in. So that sort of made sense, even though it's obviously not a direct tie-in to the movie at all. So there were a lot of good reasons for me to give it a shot. And I've never really written Wolverine by himself. I've only once, yeah, like a little tiny story in an annual, and then obviously as part of the X-Men. So he's a character I really enjoy, and thought it would be fun to, you know, take a stab at it. And the two of those guys together, you know, it's odd couple gold. So I figured at the minimum it would be, you know, it'd be fun.
I love hearing that Adam is super sweet. I feel like one of the things we've learned through these conversations is that the people who do like really gory shit, especially like cannibalistic stuff, tend to be like the nicest people in comics, which I love and I'm also terrified by.
Yeah, there's we read for one of the other clubs that I told you about is the Chillers and Thrillers, and there was this one by Beth Hetland last year called Tender. Is that her name, right?
Yeah.
Where there's also a scene where a character is eating part of a human leg as well, and these probably came out around the same time, and it's like hilarious. I was like, it was giving me flashbacks to Tender. So
I just saw something recently where it was somebody talking about people who work in romantic comedies and that they're all like evil and cynical because they're like, who would ever believe you would bump into somebody on the street and get married a week later? Like they're really cynical. And the horror people are all like giddy and they're happy to just be making stupid horror movies. And I'll hang with the horror crew. I'm down with that completely.
Makes me think of the constant juxtaposition people do between Hayao Miyazaki and Junji Ito, where Junji Ito makes like the most nightmare-inducing manga, and he's like the cutest. He's like, in my free time, I draw horses, and they're like adorable. And then Hayao Miyazaki's always like chain smoking. Like, looks like he just like got back from war, and he draws like My Neighbor Totoro and like Ponyo and all these adorable things. Yeah, that's what they're
Totally accurate. Completely accurate.
Did other people get the WW3 as being Wade Wilson the third?
they
Okay,
said
great,
it, I think
wonderful.
they said it in the second chapter.
That the WW3 was Wade Wilson the third.
They don't explicitly say
Okay,
it, but he
cool.
says like Wade Wilson the third.
I did
mean, honestly, that's
definitely
some point
read that, but I never put together that
Neither
the
did I.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
great. I was like,
I did not put
Gary
it
just
together.
texted Joe.
No.
He's like,
No,
I did check on it too. When I was
I'm a
on
critical
there,
reader.
I was like, I think I got it after when it was like a reference of like Wade kept making the references to like the third chance thing, and then I was like,
Oh, yeah.
yes, three, yes, it's all coming together, all this threes.
okay, nice.
Well, the editor kept telling me it was too subtle. So
Yeah, that's fair.
I just got a really good laugh at the fact that it is clearly labeled mature, but like the curse words are still like censored.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents ask us like in the shop, like, oh, why is this mature? And so when we're like, there's a lot of blood, they're like, that's not really like nowadays. They're like, that's not really mature. And I'm like, okay. They're like, is there any genitals? I'm like, no. They're like, okay, it's fine. I'm like, great. Okay, sure. So
it's always it's such a strange, and I mean Gary knows my family was famous for having like curse night. I used to travel a lot, and my wife, to help like the kids blow off steam, she's a guidance counselor, by the way, so she's trained to handle children. And she would just go, okay guys, you seem really stressed, so I'm going to put a timer on the microwave clock, and you can just say whatever you want for 2 minutes. And they were like 6 and 8 maybe, and the things that came out of their mouths were ridiculous. And once I witnessed it, only one time, because I was always at it, and I was horrified. It's like, what have I created and unleashed upon the world? But the kids are so exposed to so much stuff, and every time at a Comic-Con, like they had that omnibus of all of my Deadpool stuff at one point, and the movies had come out, and it was a very expensive book, and some parent would be like, oh, I'll buy this for my kid, and I was like, I don't know, like there's some dark stuff in there. And he's like, oh, he saw the movie already. I was like, okay. Good, go with God. I hope you have a fun time. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, they are not afraid of gore. They are afraid of peepees, and it's just hilarious to me.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you've certainly done Deadpool before, so that's probably a voice that's familiar, and that you enjoyed writing Wolverine. Would you say either of those two characters or any of the others in the book that there was one that was the most fun to write, or one whose voice you maybe heard the loudest?
Well, since a lot of it was sort of not Deadpool, right? Like he's sort of himself for half of the first issue, and then he's kind of out of it for a while. It was really a chance to sort of do Wolverine. I mean, that narration is super fun, and having a character who's just constantly thinking of himself as a monster, no matter what he does. Like all of the attempts he's made to be a good person and to sort of wash away the sins of his past and everything, that just constantly collapse on him. And I love that. But he continues to still get up, and he continues to do the right thing. So that's a really fun character to get into. I certainly, if I was just working on something today where like shame is sort of the theme of the whole piece, and I was raised Catholic. I understand shame, and when I get to mess with a character who, by all outward appearances should be considered a hero, but they're trying to process some shame of their past. It's very much gets all the, creative juices flowing. So um somebody's asking a question about Gary's D&D. um but I'll answer that in a second. um uh so yeah, so Wolverine, it was really just a chance to do that, because I think there was a little part of me that was like, oh, maybe if things work out, I could write more Wolverine. This would be a nice little audition for that. um and then lo and behold, I wound up on Spider-Man, which is a whole different surprise. um and then the villains are fun. I mean, villains are always fun, to just try to go, how does this person rationalize their being horrific to another person, so that at least a part of the reader's brain is going, oh, I kind of get that. If you don't have some of that, then it's a pretty flat villain. So, as bad as Delta is, at least there's sort of this element of like, well, he's seen what happened. He doesn't believe people can change, right? I mean, that's his whole bit. And so that cynicism is something that's fun to play with, especially, in our current day and age. It's kind of easy to be cynical and to ask whether or not change is possible. So that was, you write these things and you realize I'm very shallow in terms of like whatever's in my brain, that's what comes out. I every once in a while I'll sit down and I go, I want to explore this theme, but usually it's like I feel paranoid and like my whole life has been taken away from me, so I'm going to write about that happening to this character. And I think a lot of that sort of stuff, that can people change, are people good at heart, all these sorts of questions, were what drove that story. And then manifesting that in the most like ridiculous, over the top body horror, kind of scenario, that's fun for me. And then somebody wants to know, Wes wants to know, how and why is Gary bad at D&D? Gary's exceptional at the game that we play, which is also not Dungeons and Dragons.
Right, you're doing Blade Runner thing,
Yeah, we're
right?
doing Blade Runner. Yeah.
We're doing Blade Runner, and
I crushed in an Alien as a
definitely crushed it in Alien.
yeah.
Gary's the only one who does voices, which adds a level of verisimilitude that's very important. I'm not quite there. I would like to learn. So hopefully next time I will have the courage to do some good voices.
Real soon.
Were you a xenomorph, Gary?
I was a robot, but nobody knew that. So I was disguised as like a nice Southern woman. Like I had like a Southern
You were
accent.
like Bishop, but a Southern woman?
I'm like, wait, I think, can you please, we just need like a taste of the voice now that it's
Oh my
been
God.
hyped up
I
so
have,
much?
to, I have to manifest the character. I don't even remember. I can do. It's been so long since I played her.
How,
and I
on a
was
scale from, I don't know, your voice now to Paula Dean,
It
how,
was like it was something. It was
Reba
something like,
McEntire, absolutely.
like, well, y'all, I don't know what to say. I mean, we just gotta like get through this with these aliens and stuff. It was something like that. And turned out I was like an evil robot the whole time who was a
Oh.
man. And then
Amazing
I was
twist.
like, I played it really well. And then now I'm like an old man. I'm like in my 70s or 80s, or we don't really know. It's a big question mark. And
Yeah, with-
he talks like this, and he's just like
French
rough
fried
and-
potatoes.
Yeah, he's
Because
yeah.
Blade Runner.
It's been good. The journey has been exceptional watching all these dimensions.
So what I'm hearing is that when we do a D&D night with X-Men characters, you're gonna play Rogue.
Oh my god. Yeah, or I could try a gambit and try out a French accent.
That actually sounds great. I want Cajun Gary.
Yeah, Cajun, yeah.
Can you, but like James Carvey, can you just say Cajun style? Like after every, we'll just like fold in all of the...
I can shout "bam" like I'm Emerald the whole time.
Perfect.
Yes.
I'll be
Bam,
Glock
like
Berman,
Michael.
Yeah.
and my rage will just be like.
I have a question, because we were talking about characters that you've done. I was wondering, Joe, if there is a character, either in, well, we're talking superheroes, if there's like a character you've always wanted to write and never wrote, or one that you've always had like a story for and you've just never had the opportunity to write one, or even if it's one that you have written. I'm just curious. I'm just curious about that kind of thing.
Yeah, my the weird one is the Spectre. I love the Spectre. When I was a kid, I was given like a box of comics by my uncle, and it was horror books, a lot of horror books, from DC. and a lot of war books. I didn't really care about the war books. And the superhero stuff was fun. There was a lot of Superman and some Spider-Man in it. But the horror books really stuck with me. And he had there was this run of the Spectre that was only like 8 issues, 8 or 9 issues. I forget who is involved. I want to say Paul Galassi, but I'm not sure if that's true. And it's super trippy and weird. It's like one of the covers is like the Spectre holding a dollar bill, and the eagle on the dollar bill leaps off and is attacking a bank robber or something like. But it was all sort of stories about people basically having retributions against their sins, and done in these really graphic, sort of interesting ways. Like not graphic, like bloody, because it was still back in the day. So I love that character. And then in the middle they sort of shift, and they attach him to like this book of judgment, and literally God, like the heavenly voice of God, is like, you have a new job. You have to like hunt people down for their sins and judge them and fill out this book. And it's so weird. They're almost like Twilight Zone stories with the Spectre. So he really drilled into my head as sort of as an interesting horror character, like horror hero. Um, so I love him. I would love to do. I did a werewolf book called Bad Dog that I really love, but I took it on at a time when I was not really capable of maintaining a monthly book, which sort of sucks because I only got through the first like 6 issues of it. And but so like Werewolf by Night would be a fun character to do. Like any of the horror heroes, I really pretty much dig. Um, I've never done a run on Batman. I mean, it would be interesting. I think it would be super grounded because I really like Detective Batman and uh, street level Batman, maybe more than super chaos stuff that they get him into sometimes. I think those are the big weird ones. I've been super lucky in terms of like getting to write my favorite characters. Spider-Man's been my favorite from childhood. So getting to write that was writing him is always fun to me and very special. So yeah, and then otherwise it's just always oh, do you have a story in the back of your head that one day would be cool to turn into something? So there's a gigantic ton of those. So plenty more to go.
So I did have one question. As a Spider-Man fan, because from the outside looking in, it looks like one of the most thankless jobs in comics. What has writing on Amazing Spider-Man been like, both for this Eighth Deaths arc and sort of the new relaunch that's coming out?
Your sense of what it's like is so accurate. I mean, it's so funny, and I have been warned by multiple people. I mean, I was on Spider-Man for a little bit of time a couple of years ago. It was about a year after Brand New Day had happened, and at that time, it was the Brain Trust, which I hate when people come up with these dumb names, but we were rotating the book, through arcs, and that's when I did like Grim Hunt and a bunch of American Sun. Like, there's a bunch of stories I got to do there, and worked with a cool bunch of writers, and we had a good time. And part of the thought process, I remember people saying at the time, like, it's been a year since this Mephisto story, so people won't really like associate you with that. And cut to it's been 16 years since that story, and people are still mad about it. And I find it amazing. I find it amazing. It's definitely changing my relationship, or it's accelerating my change of my relationship with social media. Um, because it's the sort of loud voices that it's like I don't literally know what they want other than please give me the comic that I read 25 years ago. Like I want that same thing. And I have people that they don't want Spider-Man to suffer. Like it's the weirdest thing. It's like, oh, he's suffered too much. It's like, yeah, I know. That's why we like him. Like he suffers and he gets up and continues going. Like that's what Spider-Man does. And if you don't sort of ride that out, he becomes real boring real fast, just like every other character. So it's really interesting. All that being said, that's just the internet. You know what I mean? It's like that is I genuinely believe, and I believe this my whole career, that the people who go out of their way to complain, complaining has just been easy. it's become easier as we've gone along in life. They're a small fraction of the audience out there, and I just try to focus on, the fun people, and try, hopefully I won't get death threats. All the people I know who have written Spider-Man before me have gotten death threats, and ill will towards their loved ones and things like that. I'm waiting to see if that will be the case. Um, Eight Deaths has been, so it's funny. Eight Deaths was supposed to be, I was just doing that story to bridge for the next person. And then all of a sudden I realized that there was not yet a next person. And I said, well, what if I was that next person? And then I was able to sort of get the gig. So then I was doing double duty. And then we got Justina to come in and help with that, which was, very, very wonderful, because there was no way I could have done all of Eight Deaths and then also kicked off the new stuff. Because, when you work on this book, especially in this iteration where it's bi-weekly, it's multiple art teams no matter what. So the goal is to get as far ahead of everybody as possible so you can write linearly. Otherwise, you're like, okay, I'm writing 6 for JR, and now I've got to go back and write for Pepe, and you're constantly leapfrogging, and that's not so much fun. So we're trying really hard to just keep it linear, and so far it's actually worked, while also trying to button up Eight Deaths. So now that Eight Deaths is done, it'll be a lot easier for me to sort of plow through. But I just have to believe that there's people out there that are happy, and I'm hoping to write for them, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Certainly, people will let me know. I think the indicator of whether or not folks are enjoying it, obviously there's going to be the sales, and that helps. I don't know, honestly. You guys would know better than I would, honestly, if it's a good barometer, because I know some people just buy things because they've always bought them, right? And that's a challenge that we have. But I think that usually it you can tell when they start going at the people who are complaining. It's like if somebody will stand up and say, actually, that was pretty good, then that's about as good as it's gonna get, I think. But I'm having fun, and Pepe Larraz is just like, he is so good. I can't wait for people to see this book. Like, if people don't like it because they don't like my writing, it's fine. Like, that's totally fair. You can't look at this book and go, I don't like it. Like, it is glorious. And like, when you see what's coming down the pike, oh my God, he is just really, really solid. So I can't wait for that. So long answer, but I hope that gives you a little bit of idea.
I think DC does a better job than Marvel at making it clear, both to shops and to readers, when is a good time to jump on a new story arc when things are ongoing. And because Marvel refreshes things with number one so often, I think even that people have become sort of blind to it. So that is tricky for us. A lot of folks dropped off for our shop, dropped off Amazing Spider-Man from the last run.
Yep.
They weren't jazzed about it. So I'd say we lost probably 80% of our Amazing Spider-Man readership from the last run. And so we're able to coax some folks back on, because we're personally big fans of Justina. I mean, she's local to us. And we have a ton of Star Wars fans in the shop, and she's done such a great job on Star Wars books for a long time. Her kids' books actually do really well here too. She does a lot of really great middle grade prose. So her name holds weight for us and for our customers. So I think that is helpful in getting some folks back on. But I don't know. I feel like DC just does such a great job being like, oh, you wanted to jump on Batman? Detective starting a new arc in a month. Like, go to your shop and sign up now. Whereas there's 8 books with Spider-Man in the title, and people get confused.
That's a big reason I didn't hop on Spider-Man.
Yeah, so it's tricky. We can still do it. It just means a little bit more of a challenge for us, which is not always a bad thing.
No, that's so fair. And we talk about this all the time, like, especially with the, why did manga see such a huge bump during the pandemic and comics not as much, right? Like, certainly some readers found comics again during the pandemic, but manga went through the roof, especially digitally, obviously. And we just tell them all the time, it's because you just go to chapter one, right? It's like it doesn't matter. Like One Piece has been out for 25 years. I didn't start at Wano. I started with chapter one and I started reading it. It's so challenging to do that with characters that have been around for anywhere between 60 to 80 years, right? I mean, we will be theoretically, I hope everybody alive for Batman and Superman going into public domain, because it will have been 80 something years, 100 years. It's crazy to think that. I mean, it's crazy to think that. So it is, I do find it challenging. I know just based on the conversations I've had at Marvel, they're obviously aware of it. They are such a big machine. I hope that they can figure out ways, and I think they are trying to figure out ways to go, especially for casual readers, to go, hey, here's a place to jump on, and hopefully then that gets somebody in and enjoying the character, and then they want to explore more. I trust you when you say DC's better at it than Marvel. It's like a boots on the ground thing that I would not pretend to really know. I know they're aware of it. I just don't know that anybody has a great mechanism for going, okay, this is how you get somebody in. I personally wish there weren't number ones all the time. I really, I understand the value of it, and I'll be the beneficiary of it for Amazing, but I really just wish they kept the legacy numbering and just said, hey, this is a new arc, you should jump on. I mean, when my issue 11 is 975 in legacy numbering, which is, if they let me stick around, they don't fire me. I get to be around for Spider-Man 1000. That's awesome. Like, that's an incredible thing. And, I would love to see that legacy numbering continue. But like I said, you can't go to chapter one of Spider-Man and try to get caught up. I mean, you could. There are some people that have done it. I can't do it. That's a lot of Spidey to read. And like you said, 6 titles, 7 titles. Like, how many titles can you have? So it's a challenge. It really is a challenge. I applaud anybody. I applaud you guys for being able to get readers onto it and say to people, hey, give this one a shot. And I'm glad. I didn't know that you guys know Justina, that she's local. Was also super awesome to work with, and I'm really glad that she's having a lot of success too. That's really great to hear.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you a little bit about that, just because you have such distinct voices. But I was also thinking, as you were talking, that one of the other things that's uniquely challenging which is probably an annoying nitty-gritty thing that I'm thinking of, but for us, the data of it all, because Marvel does the half issues, which means that comic book ordering systems don't understand how to order half issues, and so it was dot D for dot death, and a comics book ordering, a computer doesn't understand. So much of it is handled that way. So thousands of shops didn't order the books because their computer didn't know to order it because it didn't know it existed, which is a unique thing that Marvel decided to do. They did it once before with Dot Hunt. Yeah. So it's a funny thing that, which is such an annoying nitty-gritty thing. But anyway, that happened.
No, that's good to know, though. I'm glad you told me that. We'll have a summit in March, and I'm more than happy to. I mean, I'll tell my editor that, but it's good to know.
I'm sure at least David Gabriel has gotten a few hundred emails to that effect. We're like, hey, David, it's us again.
It's also one of the biggest, the voice from behind the camera, who I don't know if you can hear me. One of my biggest complaints is the fact that is that the legacy numbering and the regular numbering for the series, it's confusing at times, because people will be like, well, it's a number 1, but it also says it's a number 954, and they don't want to jump on because they see that 954.
Yeah, I feel like that was true when they started to do the legacy. I feel like I hear that less so.
That was
It was a couple years ago.
2019?
Yeah, I hear that less so now than I did.
Yeah.
People have mostly gotten over it. But yeah, at the time they were like, because they made the numbers the same size. People were like, I literally don't understand. It looked like a fraction. But now that someone in the Marvel design team was smart enough to like make it smaller, and I think they usually put like LGY or something in the box, and it's
I
not a
feel like
big
the
deal.
detective has done such a good job of just keeping this standard number.
Sure. Yeah, that is one example.
Yeah, and action.
Yeah, that's true.
Though action did go old and then came back to legacy
Right.
for 1,000.
Yeah, they do their own shit too.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to miss out on their opportunity to have their 1,000, right? I mean, like, of course, that's going to happen. But yeah, it's a great point. I mean, it's a real challenge with these ongoing long titles, and I don't know that these characters, when they were created, nobody ever thought they were going to last this long, right? It's one of those sort of amazing things. Like almost everything that we love, if people thought they were just going to last for a little bit or be a little bit of entertainment, like nobody realizes they're going to survive the way they do. And I mean, that's kind of the one of the great gifts of getting to do this stuff. Is you get to contribute to something that you you know Stan was like, yeah, spiders are cool, and like that was it. And I made Spider-Man. Like there's not a lot more to it than that. And yet somehow it, winds up sticking, and becomes a really important thing to people. So then when you get that opportunity to play with those toys, it's, for me at least, it's pretty meaningful. I mean, there's jobs where you just go like, oh, this will be cool. And, I know it's going to end. And then there's something where you go, oh, I'm sort of hoping to contribute something to the bigger conversation about this character. And that's how I at least try to approach this stuff. And if I don't have an in for that, then I usually say, maybe I'm not your writer for this thing. But Spider-Man represents so much to me that it's always a yes, and hopefully that'll resonate with people. But the numbering sucks. I'm going to always agree with that.
So if you don't mind my looping back to you and Justina working together, because you do have such distinct and diverse voices. Like what is it like working on this project together?
It was great. She was super cool. She came in with, quite honestly, the boat being built in the water, which is not really fair to anybody. But she was completely ready to jump on board and just go like, sure, we'll figure this part out. What do you need? Which is great because it's a sort of project where you can only have so much like ownership of a mini series, right? Because that's ultimately what Eight Deaths was supposed to be. And so, she was just very cool and very open ideas and open to batting stuff back and forth. So it was a good, we didn't interact a lot. A lot of times it was, hey, here's the story I have so far. And the ending is kind of makes sense. And then I would get her the ending and she would already be working. So for me, it was good. I mean, I hope it was a fun experience for her, but we haven't really had like a catch up after the fact. Oh, if you guys are talking, I can't hear anything.
Okay, got it. Okay, can you hear us now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. We were saying if you ever get a chance to come in person, that we should get Justina to come too because she's not that far, and you guys can chat about it. But then Gary was.
I was saying you should come to Graphic Novel Fest when they hosted this year. It was like a big thing that they did in the summer, August.
We did do it in August last year. Yeah, this year actually it'll be October 4th. In hopes that it won't be 8,000 degrees outside, and we won't feel like we're like inside someone's nasal passage. But yeah, we were the only non-hurricane day. We lucked out by pure luck. But yes, it'll be October 4th. But yes, we will absolutely bother and email you if you're interested in coming to hang out with a bunch of people and talk about comics. It was great. We had almost a
Always.
thousand last year, so it's just a big, fun, free community event where we invite all the local schools and teachers and the community to all come and talk about how great comics and graphic novels are.
Excellent. No, that sounds fantastic. And as long as books haven't been banned by that point, then I will happily be there.
a couple secret stashes. We will surely still be handing them out.
Excellent. Good.
You have a question from the peanut gallery.
Oh no. What does Wes want?
Oh yeah, no, that's a non-Gary question. So that was pretty good.
On topic. Good job, Wes.
Who would I remove from continuity? I mean, across like all comics, that's tough. I don't know that I have like characters that I hate like that. You know, like I think when I like as a fan, you know, like I'm always been a good audience member. It's kind of this funny thing of, you know, I think about stories all day and then I sit down to watch something and if it's good, like if it captures me in any way, like if I'm watching a movie, I don't sit there and go, "Oh, that dialogue," or "Oh, the three-act structure," or I don't think about that stuff. I just go for the ride. I only fall out of it if it's not captivating my interest and then I start picking it apart on some, you know, writerly level. And so comics are the same and having sat in the chair, I guess I just go like, "Oh, well, somebody cooked it up for a reason." You know, and at the time, you know, it's the kind of thing that like the angry fans don't get. Like nobody wakes up in the morning. I won't say nobody. Maybe one person out of the you know thousands that have written comics. Generally speaking, people don't wake up in the morning and go, "I want to make somebody miserable today, and I'm going to create a character that everybody's going to hate." Unless that character serves a function, right? Like if they are functionally they exist to be hated, then the writer is hoping that it's a character you love to hate, right? So I just kind of roll with the characters. And it's like sometimes I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm kind of done with this character." I more get done. I think I get done with like repetition. You know, like I personally don't want to see Jean Grey struggle with being Phoenix again, as a for example. Like I feel like I saw that story. I saw that story done very well multiple times. Um, Sometimes when those drum beats get hit over and over, for me it feels repetitive because I've been around for a while. It would be my same complaint with remakes of movies, right? It's like if the movie was good the first time, I don't know that I need to see it now with you know a different cast. Um, so for me, it's more about like you know if I didn't have to hear about, well, I'll tell you this: if I never had to hear about a multiverse again, I couldn't be happier. Like I would love it. I wish that could go back in the box for a little while. Like we just need to get out of that for a little bit. And certainly, you know, we worked on we pitched Sonic Prime, which is a cartoon that we did on Netflix, essentially as a multiverse show. So I'm just as guilty as everybody else. I just would love to just do normal stories, not worry about what universe am I in. That would be good. So I would strip out multiverses more than I would strip out any characters.
Can I ask what you might be most proud of from this book? From the Deadpool Wolverine?
Having Deadpool grow out of Wolverine's body, I'm particularly proud of. I know that's like a real puerile weird thing to be excited by, but I thought that it was a very funny way to have their minds intermingle and this just bizarre body horror thing. And I don't think it would work in any other medium, right? Like to have a torso out of another body and have them both fighting at the same time. That's the sort of thing where I go like, "Oh, I love comics so much," right? Like we can just do this stuff that if I saw that in live action, I think even if I saw it animated, I don't think I would like it. I think I would go, "That is the dumbest thing I've seen." But like in this, I really can dig that. I really like that. And then I think just this idea that people can change, and you have to trust that people can change, being at the heart of this story. You know that Delta gets proven wrong, and that you know even if the change is letting yourself off the hook a little bit and having some faith, even if like the change it's not drastic. It's not like Wolverine or Deadpool walk out of the story as completely different characters, but they proved this guy wrong. Like, yeah, I used to be terrible. I'm not that thing anymore. That sort of stuff I like. For me, I just try to get as much of that hope into these comics as possible, even when it is just crazy, over the top, body horror, guts all over the place. I need that. It's what, anytime I'm writing a sequence that's just plot, it takes forever. It takes me forever. But like the 8 Deaths issue that was like 65, where it was just like Spider-Man watching all people that he cared about dying and having to like hold that. And what does it mean? We've had a lot of loss in our family over the last year, and so it was not a coincidence that all that stuff kind of went into the 8 Deaths. And that issue in particular, it's plot wise, not a lot happens, right? It's just Spider-Man is willing to carry this weight and carry the weight of all these lives and make sure he's honoring them and paying attention and not dropping, his responsibility. And then the bad guy comes and smacks him, sucker punches him. That's really all that happens that issue as far as plot. But all that emotional stuff, I could write that super fast. I love doing it. It's where I feel like if I'm not doing comedy, then I want to be doing that. Those are sort of the two ends of the stick that I enjoy the most. But if I just have to write like a fight, it's ridiculous how long it takes me to do it. I hate it. I hate just writing fights. You would think it'd be the easy part, but I don't like to just go like, hey, you figure it out, which certain writers do. They just go like, yeah, from this page to this page, they're gonna fight and make sure these 3 things happen. That's not how I write. I write essentially full scripts, and pretty much always have. Even in the beginning, my scripts didn't look like film scripts, but they had dialogue as well as action in every description. So yeah, I put a lot of work into the plotting when I really don't love it. So.
Oh yeah, I have Alex asked me to ask you how the Rick was.
The Rick seems to be a very nice vehicle. I just inspected the Rick from outside. It's for those who don't know, it's a hybrid Ford Maverick. It's green. It's now been dubbed the Rick. It's a very special car. What else can I tell you about comics from my brain?
Other than Spider-Man, which is certainly lofty enough, are there other upcoming projects you have that you can tell us about?
Well, it does involve Spider-Man, but there is Spider-Man and Godzilla, which I'm very excited about. It is a very silly one-shot, part of the Marvel versus Godzilla stuff. And Nick Bradshaw, who just does this, he's such a strange, like, I really love his art, and it's this strange amalgam of almost like Ed McGuinness and Art Adams. Like, it's such a strange, like, so much detail, but also so much bouncy fun, and his Godzilla looks great, and it is set in the 80s, or edge of the 90s. It's got the black suit Spidey. It's got a writing style in it that I would only have written if I was in the early 90s, late 80s. A lot of references to books that may or may not exist. Footnotes, a lot of footnotes. So it's a really fun. It's just a fun, and certainly Gary can tell you, but I love Godzilla, like, in a preposterous way. Love Godzilla. So to have the opportunity to do that, even in one that was maybe a little more comedy action, 80s vibe, was a big treat. So that's super exciting. I hope people have fun with that. And then, yeah, Spider-Man has just been eating up a lot of brain space, because it's an ongoing book. Man of Action is working on a couple of video games that probably won't show up until next year, is going to be my guess. One of them is it's a new IP. It's called Impact. We're pretty excited about it. It's very cool. Studio in Sweden. all these people that worked on AAA games. Very cool. And then some other stuff I'm not allowed to talk about. And then I'm hoping sometime in the middle of this year to get back on working for Ken Nomura. Ken drew I Kill Giants and Immortal Sergeant, and we're trying to do this kind of like Long Island trilogy. And I waited, way too long between I Kill Giants and Immortal Sergeant to get him more stuff. So I've been cooking up something for that, for him that I'm very excited about. So that'll be really fun. That's still years in the making, but the starting is now, and that's exciting. There's a book that I started a long time ago in French. I don't speak French, but it's a French publisher called Fong, and it's drawn by Nico Armershon. And it was actually Nico's idea, and they brought me on. And Humanoids publishes it. And so the first volume came out in French a bunch of years ago. And then Nico started the second volume. And between pandemic, which was part of it, and then also going to work with Brian K. Vaughan on a book for, I don't know how many chapters it is. It's very long, that they publish on the Substack. He finally finished that. So now he's back to Fong. So when volumes 1 and 2 of the French version are done, that's going to come out as a single graphic novel in English. So I think that'll be kind of not soon, but I think that might be this year. It's possible that'll show up. And that's about this little like fox girl who's a demon hunter. And it's this kind of like half anthropomorphic, half human world. Kind of, if you think of like how Avatar, like The Last Airbender, it was just sort of nations that had recognizable elements, but were not, it wasn't China, it wasn't Japan. It's just sort of stuff, different cultural touchstones. That's sort of the type of world that Fong is set in. And, Nico is just like unbelievable, so talented. And does really good stuff with like animals and anthropomorphic characters. So that's a really fun project. I love doing that. I get to channel my anime and manga brain very much into that. But in this European format, which is so fun, like American artists tend to freak out if you put more than like 5 panels on a page. Like it didn't used to be like that, but it got to that point. And some people can absolutely handle it. Like Adam, you could give him a 9-panel page, it's going to be fine. That French format is so big that they go, oh yeah, 9, 10 panels. Yeah, it's fine. 12 panels. It's cool. Which I don't need to jam up a page, but it's fun for pacing and comedy and just little extra bits. So, and it just looks great. So yeah, that's a bunch of stuff that's coming down the pike.
In particular sounds cool, and as someone who has Godzilla inked on my body, I am also a huge fan, so I'm extremely jazzed for that.
I too have a Godzilla tattoo. Yeah, mine. I have a -1 that goes he's from here to here. He's very large. Yeah. And I got it right before the movie came out, and that my tattoo guy was like, how do you know? Like this movie might suck. Like, are you sure you want this version? And I fell in love with that design. It just felt modern and classic. So I was just like, yep, go for it. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I can't hear you again.
Is that why you worried about my tattoo? No. Oh. I was going to say, Wes was there when I got my tattoo. Yes, Tom King does like 9 panels. Thanks, Wes. Excellent. That's exciting. I love Godzilla. I'm glad that they're leaning heavily into the anniversary, and he's having quite a renaissance. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Have you had a chance to read any comics or graphic novels lately that you've enjoyed?
I have mostly been working my way through One Piece, to be totally honest. Like my son turned me onto it. He was like, Dad, you just gotta. And I put it off for a long time. And then I got really hooked on this idea that, you know, he's going to end it soon, right? Like 3 to 5 years, maybe. And so the idea of being there sort of live for the end of a 30-year story just felt like something I wanted to make sure I did. So when I have free time, I'm pretty much reading One Piece. Which is not, it's not great because it's like, you know, a steady diet of one thing. It's good to diversify, but I love it so much. Like it is preposterous how much I love that book. Um, just because I can't get enough of how Oda just jumps between like complete silly ridiculous humor and then complete gut wrenching rip your heart out and then crazy world builds, and it just rockets around. Yeah, I don't know if you guys, so there was a movie called Triple R. Did you guys see that movie? Triple R is this amazing like Bollywood adjacent, I don't know if it's technically a Bollywood movie, but uh it's this incredible film. It's like 3 hours long. It's really serious in its subject matter, and then a guy punches a tiger, and then also there's a musical number, multiple, like they'll just start singing. And the way somebody described it is like when we make movies in the West and we talk about like 4 quadrant films and we're trying to like make sure it appeals to everybody at the same time, they make movies where they go, well, this part is for the guys to see action punching, and this romance part is for the people who like romance, and this part is for the kids because it's silly, and yet it's all of a piece and it all hangs together. And that's how One Piece feels to me. So, you know, if you haven't seen Triple R, high strong recommend, because it's just insane. But One Piece was like that for me. So I've been doing that. My other ongoing deep dive is just Urasawa in general, Urasawa manga. So I was reading Asadora. I just got all of 20th Century Boys because I had like an old collection of it, but I only had up to volume 8 or something. And I was like, this might go out of print again. Like I have no idea. So I just rebought that whole series. And Blood on the Tracks, which is the saddest, darkest thing I've read. It's really rough. It's really rough. So yeah, pretty heavy in manga at the moment. There's some things I really want to check out. I mean, I'm always curious about good new indie stuff. Because for me, that's where I'm not getting the repetition stories, right? I'm finding original ideas and new characters. And I finally looked at Absolute Batman. I haven't read it, but I'm just sort of fascinated by it. And people say it's good. I'm curious. I don't know. Has anybody read it? Is it any good? Oh wait, the sound didn't switch over. Wait, say that again.
Falling asleep on the job.
The Absolute Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are pretty good. For me, between Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman, it's sort of like whichever one was the last one I read has become my favorite. And the Superman one is really good too, but I think it's just a step below the other two so far. But I just read Absolute Wonder Woman 4 either yesterday or today, and I like sent a message to the group, and I was like, anyone who's not reading this is insane. They should read it right now. It's beautiful. But I mean, Absolute Batman, it's wonderful. So definitely worth the read.
Yeah, I think that tends to be the shop consensus. Absolute Batman is excellent, but Absolute Wonder Woman is fucking amazing.
Yeah, it
everyone
took
should be
off.
reading
It really took off like in such a big way. It's been so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Urasawa's the best. 20th Century Boys is my all-time favorite. Thank you. So good.
Also, who wants to see Miranda's Godzilla tattoo?
Why? I have to like get up.
Oh no,
and, like...
I have the image of it.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm gonna like pull up my overalls.
Oh no, you're good. Don't worry.
That's weird. I have the animated Godzilla tattooed on my leg, so it's not. This is so weird. This is so weird. Wow, look at that extremely zoomed in. My little smushy Godzilla.
I love that Godzilla.
Alright, how do I make it go away?
You don't.
Do you watch any of those the crazy Chibi Godzilla shorts that are on YouTube?
Yeah.
This season of them the first season I didn't really get, and I didn't really get into, but this season is hilarious. Like some of the stuff in there, I fall out laughing. I think it's really good. So I love that. Love that.
Does anybody else have any questions for Joe? Okay. You absolutely do not have to, but do you have any questions for us?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, just also, I mean, Gary probably already told you this, but you guys can ask me anything. Like uh, I appreciate that it's a very official thing, and you're recording, and I'll be beholden to whatever words I say on the internet. But seriously, like if you have any questions about industry writing, any of that stuff, I'm happy to while I'm here. I'm not in a rush. Like I don't want to slow you guys down. But if there's any questions, don't feel like something's out of bound. I have really thick skin. I figured Gary would just be like, so, I think you kind of suck. And I figured that I would have to be defending myself earlier. So you can ask any questions.
I just tagged this. I don't think that I realized that you were. I think it came up at like a Blade Runner night. I don't think I realized that you were doing Spider-Man until like a few weeks ago. And now I have to like pick it up. I'm excited for that. So because the last thing I read that you did was Immortal Sergeant when that was coming out. But I think it was only recently that I realized that you were like I didn't even know that this had come out that you had done. So I'm glad that we were able to pull it. So it was great.
No, well, thanks. Well, if you want to ask me why, Mary Jane isn't married to Peter, I'll understand. You can also ask me on the side. But seriously, if you have any questions you just feel like are industry questions, feel free. Don't feel like it has to just stick to stuff I've written. Yeah. Well, I mean, I always want to know what people are reading that they love. I mean, I specifically happen to just ask about the absolute stuff, but yeah, tell me what you guys are reading that you're really enjoying.
Can I say one thing? So this is an old one, but I never would have known about it without like coming to the bookstore. But Cosmonites is phenomenal. I think you'd really like it, Joe, too. It's going to be like 3 trades. I guess
it's
you call
3.
it.
Yeah, it's a trilogy. OGNs from IDW, from Top Shelf, I guess. Yeah.
It's really good. When I was sick with COVID back in like August of this year, I had them and I've been meaning to read them, and I read through them super quickly, and like it was like healing. It was so good. So like beautifully drawn. It's just like I can't say enough good things about it. That's not really something that I'm reading now. I would say,
but the almost direct. So then Gary had an opportunity to meet the creator at Small Press Expo, and I asked Gary if he was going to tell her that he loved the book, and he said that he was just going to lay down on her signing table and burst into fireworks instead. And that would give her the clue about how he really felt about her book. So if that tells you at all how much Gary liked them.
It's super good. Yeah, it felt really fresh, and it's beautiful. It has like I know, it's just really pretty. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's a gorgeously done space epic. So it's really good.
And tell me the title again.
It's called Cosmonites. Cosmonites, like with a K.
Word,
yeah, all one word. Knights has a K, because it's mech suit space fighting.
I'll text you.
Okay, Gary will text it to you.
I do also have a legitimate question from the Peanut Gallery.
Okay, what is Wes's legitimate question? Oh, that's a lofty question from Wes.
Ooh. Sam, you can answer about.
What's the biggest headache? I guess it depends on what hat I'm wearing, right? Like deadlines are always tough, right? It's hard to keep a monthly deadline. What's the biggest headache? Well, I think that we've all sort of suffered enough through the market being so wild, right? Like, obviously I assume that I'm a little bit older than you guys. And so I've been around to watch like Marvel go bankrupt and to see what that did. Prior to that, I was around for the speculator market where everybody was buying, 10, 20, 100 copies of Death of Superman because one day they were going to retire on that, now you just fill landfills with them. And to watch that constantly happen, and to watch people make the same mistakes over and over drives me absolutely insane. And we can, and I have these conversations with any of them, like any of the people at Marvel or DC, and I go, why are we doing this again? And why are we doing that again? And often the answer is, well, because we sold X amount of copies. I go, okay, I get it. Like the line has to go up, like and I find that frustrating because I know that it's in the long term, it's a zero sum game, right? Like people only have so much money in their pocket. They cannot be tricked over and over and over into doing like stunts and variant covers and all that sort of stuff. And that to me is a headache because it gets in the way of what I want to do, which is just like tell cool stories and try to keep the reader having fun. It's like these books are, depending on how you approach comics, it can be, I think for some people, I don't think it's an overstatement to say it's life changing. I think for other people, it's just entertainment, and that's fine, right? That's the giant spectrum. It's hard to just do those things when you have to think about industry stuff and characters that are owned by mega corporations, and we put this character on cereal boxes, so you can't do X, Y, and Z. Like when I got hired for Superman, the editor, one of the first things he said is, when Superman got a haircut, it was on the cover of Time magazine. So don't mess around. Like that's like a weird kind of level of responsibility, but also don't rock the boat. And that can really get in the way of the creative process. So I would say that's my biggest headache. I don't know what Night Terrors is.
Everything got like into Night Terrors, and it was I was smart enough to not buy a single one, but it was pretty terrible crossover thing.
So DC, Wes will never trust Sam again. But DC decided to basically have a print run wide nightmare that every character got sucked into, and so they paused every story across every series so that every character could end up in this huge nightmare. And it was supposed to originally be for Halloween, but somehow the timing ended up off. And so it ended up coming out like, I don't know, in the spring or summer or something. And so they would allude in the comics to things and stories that hadn't actually been printed yet because they printed them out of order. So it was like poorly done on almost every possible level. There were some of them that were really well written, like G. Willow Wilson did one. Like, they could have, there was potential for it not to be a disaster, but basically, like, shops got upset because people were like, well, I'm just gonna pause all my subscriptions for this month and a half. And customers who bought it, like Wes, got upset because he was like, what the ever-loving fuck is happening? I hate all of these things. Nothing makes sense. Why are they saying that this character, who I haven't even met yet, has died? I don't understand. So it was terrible. DC will live in shame for sure for that.
It's only worth buying like specific single issues. Like look for the characters you like and buy specifically their stories. Nothing else. I only got the Nightwing stuff. That one was cool because I like Didi Coelho.
And I'm sure they will never make that mistake ever again until they do. It sucks.
They'll wait a decade and then they'll do the exact same thing again.
Night Terrors 2, the end of the Night Terrors.
Yeah, the end of the night.
They've been in a nightmare this
2,
whole
Nightmares.
time.
Nightmares.
Yes.
Final Nightmare.
Matt, do you want to get sub to that one?
But yeah, and what else? So what else are you guys reading that you like?
Wait, other than Cosmonites?
If you're into kind of fucked up stuff, the series, well, I guess it's like a one volume of Stray Dogs, but then also Feral. They are drawn literally like All Dogs Go to Heaven cartoon style, but it's like murdery shit. It's great. I love to be like, this is absolutely not for children because it looks like it is, but then also like traumatize adults by telling them it is horror.
it's pitched as All Dogs Go to Heaven meets Silence of the Lambs. So it's illustrated by Trish Forstner, who did the My Little Pony comics for years, and so it is absolutely adorable. And then it's written by Tony Fleece, and it is extremely fucked up. But it's really so there's stray dogs,
And then feral is cats.
yes, and then feral is cats, which is a zombie apocalypse, but with rabies among cats. And that one is currently ongoing. Stray Dogs wrapped up, but they were through Image, or are through Image. Yeah.
Those sound great. That's like right up my alley. I'll totally check those out.
Black Cloak by Kelly Thompson has been really good. That sort of a fantasy detective sort of vibe, and also a fantasy vibe is Hunger in the Dusk by G. Willow Wilson. Both of those are kind of examples of something that I've been trying to do, which is find a Cape comic writer that I like, and then sort of follow their indie darling work, and then read the actually good stuff.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's very cool.
The world, Delicious in Dungeon or Dungeon Meshi, that's been really good. It's all like 14 volumes are out, so it's like nice, complete. And it also has some cannibalism stuff in it, but like not gruesome. There's not like blood with it. It's mostly like the premise is cooking monsters in a dungeon and Dungeons and Dragons as setting, but it's a lot of fun.
Isn't it like on Netflix now too, or something?
Yes. The first season is out. It should only be 2 seasons.
Yeah. It's one of the like more accurate anime adaptations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Opposed to like Promised Neverland, which is a fantastic manga, and the anime is like, what if we only adapt like every other book and you'll just figure it out? And you're like, what?
What if we do a
Why?
slideshow?
Yeah.
That was the saddest, and it was just, having worked on all sorts of productions, like some of them are successful, some of them not so much, some of them come, some of them go. To watch something get just axed in the middle like that, and then go, oh, but we're going to pretend everything is fine. And then, hey, here's the end of your series. It's just a bunch of slides. Like that was brutal. That was brutal. So, but Delicious in Dungeon, I have watched the show. I do like the show quite a bit. So I'm glad to hear the anime's good. The manga's good too.
Minor Arcana, which I'm also reading, which is excellent. It's
That's
the new Jeff
Jeff
Lemire. And I started reading it. I was like, oh, I'll read it because it's Jeff Lemire and I'll see. And I was like, I don't really want to add another comic. And I started reading it. I was like, I can't put it down though. It's very good. It's like a young woman. Her mother is an alcoholic. She's like got cancer, and she was like kind of like a fake psychic. Like she was kind of like a charlatan. And but then it turns out that the daughter who comes back to help her mother, who hates the fact that she's back in her hometown, it turns out like she can do real like tarot readings, and things start getting like really weird. And I think it's 5. The 5th one is the one I just read, the most recent one. It's been about 5, and it's really, really good so far. So surprisingly good.
Yeah, and Jeff is really excited about it. He has, and it's from Boom, and they're fully on board. They already have mapped
That was the
out
most recent one.
the
Is that 5? Yeah.
entirety of the series. All the book collections are going to be based on the major and minor arcana. Like, they're ready to roll. There's going to be an accompanying tarot deck. Like,
It's like 60-something issues.
yeah,
At the end of it.
it's already been like fully ready to roll. So, yeah, it's excellent. I've also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, aside from the absolutes, which we talked about, other stuff I'm reading, Green Lantern has been phenomenal for a while. There's been a few different things recently which have all been good, and I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with Tom King, but I've been enjoying Black Canary best of the best. I won't give up on that. It's so good. And then Kelly Thompson's Birds of Prey has been really good, especially because it started off where there was like a main story, and I was like, oh, it's going to be over now. It was like 6 to 10, 12 issues, and I was like, oh, I guess it's done now, and then it kept going, and it's just like been really good still. So like even after the original premise was like fleshed out, it was done, and it kept going, and it's like just still really good, which like you never know how it's gonna go. And so that was good. Ram V's had some good stuff like Rare Flavors recently, and
Dawn Runner was good.
I was going to ask if you had read Dawn Runner, because I just got the trade.
Yeah, I did read Dawn Runner. I enjoyed that. That was pretty good. I still haven't seen Pacific Rim, but it's very Pacific Rim-esque is what I'm told. but really enjoyable. And Evan Kagel, who's the artist, is also doing. What is he doing with? Oh, he's doing the New Gods. So Ram V just started doing New Gods with the same artist, and I feel like I see New Gods stuff all the time and know nothing about them, and it's like 2 issues in, and it's very good. It's like not the typical Ram V either. Really, really enjoyable. I've been thoroughly enjoying New Gods, and it's only gonna be like 6 issues or something. So.
Is it? That makes me feel much better.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Maynard is great, and you would love it.
Yes.
It's only going to be 4 issues, but I hope they like make it an ongoing because you could do so many things with that.
Yeah, it's Kaylee's new favorite. You will also enjoy it. Yeah. That's from Dark Horse, I think. Yeah. And then I'm thoroughly enjoying FML from Kelly Sue DeConnick,
good.
which is clearly her writing about what it's like to raise teenagers, but adding all these flavors of like magical realism hijinks, which is fantastic.
Really good, yeah.
Yeah.
I just read the 3rd one, the newest one, and
Yeah.
it was another one where I was like, am I really going to pick up another thing? And I started reading, and I was like, yep, I love it. Here we go.
Gary, we always have suggestions for you.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. It was really good.
If you want something that's like cute art but absolutely horrific content, I really enjoyed Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Oh, so good.
Yes.
That was
I turned all my friends onto
Yeah.
it. I just passed my book around.
Yeah.
It was absolutely delightful. I've gone back and reread it a few times just because the art itself was great, but I love introspective stories. So I absolutely adore Jed McKay's Moon Knight. That's a Moon Knight that goes to therapy. Yeah, and he just talks about what's in his head, and I'm like, I adore that.
Beneath the Trees has a sequel series coming
Yeah, Beneath the
out.
Trees is
Yeah.
the sequel series. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Beneath the Trees was one that I was hounded Alex. I was like, you have to read this. Like, you have to get it. So he got it. Like, and yeah, I think he liked it a lot. Like a lot. It's like
It's Dexter, but
the busy
better.
world of it's
Yeah.
the busy world of Richard Scarry, but it's like
Meets Dexter.
meets Dexter. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
another, adorably illustrated
Yeah.
serial killer vibes.
So good.
Yeah.
Beautiful watercolors. It's just gorgeous.
Good
And
choice.
another guy, Patrick Corbett is another, like, bounces between Hollywood and comics a little bit, and so has his feet in both worlds, and is also, again, like, the nicest guy on the planet, and draws, like, the most horrifically gory stuff. So, yeah, he's the best.
And I also throw in, for like the gory serial killery stuff, The Deviant by James Tynan. The 4th is really good. It's IV if you prefer. The 9th and final issue is supposed to come out next month. It's been delayed quite a bit, but the first 8 have been phenomenal. And so I hope he sticks to the landing, but it's been really, really good.
Did you have one comment for Wes?
Oh no. Why? Wes, leave it alone.
Parasocial was an older comic that we read last year for Chillers and Thrillers. It actually wasn't bad, but it had like Erica Henderson did the art, which was good. It was kind of like a more modern day telling of Misery, like Stephen King's Misery. But the conversation with the writer was like insane in like good and bad ways. It was fun though. It was cool.
Wes took it very personally for some reason and keeps bringing it up. You don't have to be friends with Alex DeCampi. It's okay. It's okay. She has her own life.
In Wes's defense, I've had that layover from Atlanta to Houston before, and it drives you crazy.
Wes is currently trapped in the Atlanta airport, so his comments are fueled by the world's worst airport.
Hope
No, it's Denver.
One of my favorite comics that I've read in like the last
Dallas
like
is
year or two,
by far the
last
worst
year
airport.
actually, is The Human Target, which has Greg Smallwood on art.
also Tom
Yeah,
Cruise.
but it's delightful.
If
Murder mystery
instead
introspection.
you say it's a Greg Smallwood book, then it has a different ring to it
Does
than
it
if
have
it's
the
a
9 panel?
It does, yeah. It's Tom King.
the very
That's-
last scene with Ivy.
Yeah,
it's like is the best.
I will literally read anything with Greg Smallwood. That's how I ended up getting into Vampironica. I was like, I don't know what this is, but Greg Smallwood did it, so now I'm going to read about
Me and
Veronica.
Daniel Nicolo.
and being a cheerleader who also drinks blood, because why not?
And speaking of Ram V and sort of detective-y stuff, sort of my favorite from last year was One Hand, Six Fingers, which it was one run by Ram V, one run by Dan Waters, and it sort of followed a detective and a serial killer, and sort of alternating between their perspectives, and it was really
And
interesting.
it's our
Yeah.
Killers and Thrillers
It's our
this
Killers and
Tuesday. That was our
Thrillers.
Nice.
book. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was excellent too. Yeah.
That's cool. I love how diverse everybody's tastes are. It's just, I think a lot of the people like at the shop by me, which is a great shop, everybody's very cool. It's mostly people talking about superheroes. So I very much appreciate like the wider variety of stuff that you're all checking out.
Grasshoppers still. Nice.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are plenty of people that are reading other things, but if I happen to be in the store, it's just that's the stuff people are asking me about. And I mean, in fairness, if they haven't read I Kill Giants or something, they don't necessarily think of me as doing that stuff. They think of me as more mainstream, so it makes sense. But I need to hear the other things because that's more what I want to read anyway.
Yeah, we're a very not superhero focused store. We definitely have superhero stuff and superhero readers, but we're definitely the kind of store. I mean, Gary and Dan and Eric, this corner probably is most of the superhero stuff we order and sell is specifically for these three people. But yeah, well, X-Men exclusively for Izzy. Yeah, I would say we're the kind of store that would know you as being from I Kill Giants. That would be like, oh, you wrote some superhero stuff too. That's cool. But I really liked I Kill Giants. That's definitely more the vibe. So we forget sometimes. Usually, if they're talking about superheroes, it's which ones are the hottest. Is most likely what's coming up, which is why Nightwing comes up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of Thirst Trap covers, right? Didn't they just do like a whole swimsuit thing with all the DC characters?
The most popular from our orders is the one with Superman and Batman in the hot tub together, where Superman's using his laser vision to heat up the tub. And
Yes.
Little speedos, but then Batman also still has the cowl on because of course he does.
Very.
Collect them into posters, but not as often as we'd like.
Need the DC swimsuits.
Yeah. We miss all the Thirst Trap things. We would like more calendars and posters. DC does that better than Marvel.
Oh, with the swimsuit calendars?
Yeah, just letting them slut it up a little bit.
Yeah, that used to be a staple when I was reading comics as a young person. Like I was in junior high, going into high school, and the swimsuit issue would come out and stuff, and everybody would be very excited. It was very, but I feel like I'm glad those came back too. I think that, and they seem to be more inclusive, and that's a good thing.
Yes, they definitely are, and we appreciate it.
Wes has an excellent comment about the hot tub.
Could be, buddy. Could be.
Eric's throwing in the towel.
That Nightwing cover is still anatomically impossible.
Yeah, I do love that. Where they were like, we need you to have him like smoldering spies over his shoulder, but also show that he's got the juiciest ass in comics. Yeah, and the huge back. They won't let Nightwing have ribs. They're just like, we're gonna need to remove some ribs to make this possible. That would be great.
He's an acrobat. He's done a lot of stretches.
We need to give him like a trapezoidal pelvis.
Not important. It's great. We try not to think that hard.
It is a quality.
Be at the bar at the Atlanta airport.
Yeah, probably. Oh yeah. All
The
right.
bar.
Does anyone else have any questions for Joe? Or Joe, do you have any more questions for us?
I've learned so much about the swimsuit issues already. I don't know if I could follow that up. I've got like a window into some souls. No, but if you guys have any questions for me, please fire away. And if not, that's okay too.
Yeah, I think we've all just now are thinking about which superheroes are the hottest. So I think we've lost the thread a little bit. Apologies.
What was your favorite Ben 10 alien
There you go.
from the show?
of the classics, I mean, I love Wild Mutt just because it's so ridiculous, and uh, I have a werewolf thing, so I like anything that's like a big dog. So I do Wild Mutt's a favorite, but the Ghost Freak gag of there was actually an alien living in the watch, that was a big personal favorite because it's a plot twist, so that made me happy. Um, there's some goofy ones from later on that are pretty fun, but then we start getting into like 100 something aliens, and I definitely lost track. I'm definitely that guy. I'm like, I don't know. Somebody made up some with a bunch of eyes. Like I don't remember everybody.
Well, which one was the hottest?
Swamp Fire.
Swamp Fire, Heat Blast. Yeah.
There you go, literal hottest.
Yeah. Like what's the hottest Pokemon? I'm sure somebody has an answer to that.
Oh, I only no.
No, we're not talking about
The one that's literally just a giant tongue.
Oh, lick.
Lickitung, or
Yeah,
licky
lick.
licky.
Isn't it like Lickitung?
There's Lickitung and there's Licky Licky, which is its evolution.
Not Jinx. That's the blackface one, right?
Yeah.
Ghastly?
No, absolutely not.
Ghastly.
Gary,
I was just trying to do
shut it down.
Ghastly,
Gary's like, which
Haunter.
one was racist?
I said Mr. Mime first.
That's true.
He's the white face one.
One or the American one.
Gary, you know we're live on YouTube.
No one's watching but Wes. That's
Yeah.
really fine. Don't overestimate our popularity. Sam.
See the one eye.
It's just Wes.
It's just Wes. Oh no. Perfect. Wonderful.
And on that,
Well,
Thank you so much for doing this, Joe.
yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for being here. It's fun for us to get to dissect and talk about the books, but it means so much more when we get to hear from your perspective where ideas came from and the pieces of yourself that you put into the book. And so we really appreciate your time to get to share that with you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really it was great to meet you guys and do this, and hopefully I will be there in person one day. It's a good excuse to come by and visit. So really appreciate it. And thanks for reading. I know it's not. I don't know if it's the kind of book you guys would typically do a book group over. So I appreciate it. And thanks for making the time. And you know you have carte blanche to pick on Gary, of course.
Yeah, Sam keeps cutting me out of the video.
it's been so long since we've done one, the camera's literally taped onto the tripod.
There it is. Nailed it. Amazing. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, we will definitely bug you about getting you here in person. So we're looking forward to it.
Excellent. Totally my pleasure. Thank you again, everybody.
Thanks, Joe. Have a good night.
Thanks to you too. Bye bye.